Hello, here I am in the beautiful French countryside. Here I'll do a little pan. I'm walking. This is a trail through a vineyard. Vineyards are everywhere. And I'm in a village still. So one beautiful benefit of that is that I have lovely places to just go hike or bike. But I'm too young to be in a village. I definitely feel that. So I'm looking forward to when I get back to Marseille. But I wanted to just talk about how I've been in touch with American friends, and I really have to limit my doom scrolling. It's not even so much doom scrolling, it's the news and YouTube watching. And so it's not scrolling, it's actually watching news from very reputable people who have left the mainstream media. People like Jim Acosta. You now have Midas Touch, The Bulwark. Let me think. Oh, David K. Johnson, who's always an excellent person who holds really sophisticated views on what's going on. People from former administrations, whether it be Trump 1, you got Rick Wilson, you got the Lincoln Project people, all these kind of people. I really do appreciate all of their work. However, it can be a lot if you're digesting it every day, and I realize maybe there's some tips I should pick up on, which is give yourself a window, and I think I might do that as opposed to coming back to looking at stuff later in the day. I think I may limit to my morning coffee, which takes 2 hours because I have a whole pot of French press. I mix it with decaf, so I'm not like wiring myself up totally, and cocoa, and I have my own frother, and so I make like these huge mugs of frothy amazingness. I buy, fresh cocoa beans. Anyway, fresh coffee beans. So it takes 2 hours of my morning, but it's probably not the best way to set up my morning. So what I've even done to start to alleviate that and make that my mornings not so with US News, when I first wake up, I will do some stretching and make sure I put on some music, because you can't forget the music. So I have some, not crazy music, but more soothing music. So I play that first, as opposed to just jumping in on news stories. And then I will, make my coffee and stuff and then watch some news. So I'm going to keep this maybe down to an hour even, because that's plenty to catch up. And it seems like things have just been quickening. Now there's this latest talk. Is Trump alive? That was like this rumor. And so he went quiet. And there's one thing about Trump is that he always does something to throw people off balance. So if he thinks that, being quiet will throw people off balance, then he'll just go with that. Because it's still all about him. And guess what? The focus is still all about him. Everybody doing memes on, is he dead? And wondering where is he at? Why isn't he in public? And then the countdown. He hasn't been seen in public in X days. And now he hasn't been seen in public in Y days. So he's still getting his narcissistic supply. So I just wanted to comment mostly about the narcissism. I have experience in this area, so I've learned a lot to overcome it, because I would not be able to act in the world the way I am acting if I had not learned how to overcome dealing with this type of personality. In fact, my last job, which was as a sous chef in a very nice private winery in Napa, in Sonoma rather, I got my boss fired due to his treatment of me. And that is not an easy feat. But I know a little bit about how you defeat these people. And Trump is definitely one of these people. Gavin Newsom is doing it exactly right. That's not what I did on the job, obviously. But Martin Luther King had it right. And that was labeled peaceful resistance. So you cannot... The Democrats that are the head leaders of the Democratic Party don't know shit about what they're doing. And they're doing nothing. And that's not the right way to act. People like the governors now that are standing up, yes, this is what you do. They have power. They have to exercise it. They have to get aggressive. With me, when there was an imbalance of power at my job, what I had to do, unfortunately for me, was to take the slings and arrows and gather intel and make sure the intel turned into evidence. Being a lawyer, I knew what was evidence and what was not. So my ability to get the evidence I needed to get and then let it just all bubble to the surface. These people basically hang themselves on their own petard after a while. If you somehow manage to just get out of their way, so to speak, you don't react. So when it's peaceful resistance, so if there's troops in the street, you don't react. Actually, in Vietnam days, they had it right when they were showing, students putting flower stems into the barrels of shotguns that were being pointed at them. Because it's a huge risk and it's a huge danger. This is not child's play. But you are pointing out with your peaceful actions who is the villain. It becomes undeniable, especially when it is done en masse. So I'm very fearful for the elections coming up, that something will be provoked. The stupid ICE people who are not trained, and I believe now some of the National Guards that are being put out there have been federalized to carry weapons. I'm afraid something is going to go wrong, and a citizen, an American on the other side of things that they're policing, is going to be shot, injured, or worse, and that is going to be the spark for an all-out brawl. And then this will give the regime the ammunition. More than that, it will give them the ability to say, we must impose military in the street, and I don't even have to declare martial law. They just use force with the military. He's got a huge budget with his ice buffoons. I bet you he will find a way to federalize them and be able to give them weapons. I'm just waiting for that. I really feel, because he doesn't follow any laws, they will find some kind of little law loophole somewhere, and they just blast through it. And then they, it's the old don't ask permission, and they don't even ask forgiveness either. There are no laws, as Gavin Newsom has said. So they'll arm them, and I really believe this to be true. From what I understand, the budget they gave them from the big ugly bill was something on the order of 42 billion, something crazy like that. I mean, it's an insane amount, bigger than many other things, obviously not bigger than the regular military. So, but back to the peaceful resistance thing, I feel like we are now collectively under this bullying and traumatic experience. And I've had enough of that in my life before I knew how to marshal my powers and not be victimized by it. But I'm still have areas where I am victimized, since I am not totally independent, and nobody is, because now financially everything I feel is getting precarious. If they can fire people from the Federal Reserve, I hope they can't. But if they can start mucking around with that, then all of a sudden the dollar becomes unstable. Globally, this could cause huge issues. I get my money in dollars. And it's Social Security. But people who have their money in stock portfolios, whatever, I have that too. But people who have huge, nest eggs in this sort of stuff, nobody's safe, because once everything starts shaking like, a world earthquake, where are you going to put your money? I hope you have enough gold. Like what? I just don't even know how, even people that have a lot of bank in the bank, I don't think you can just assume that you're not going to take massive hits if the U.S. keeps dismantling literally everything. Because he seems so enabled. He's just one person. If he didn't have the power and the might behind him, he would just be some old grandpa freaking in a home at this point, hooked up to an IV and dialysis machine or whatever the fuck he needs. If his kidneys are failing or congestive heart failure or whatever. That would be, and maybe he's actually doing the congestive heart failure. Don't they have to hook you up to some things and give you some kind of, IV, whatever, for a period? I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's doing. But this man has a God complex, and I really think he thinks he's going to live forever. He just creates his own reality. He's totally deluded, self-deluded. So nothing's caught up to him, which, in terms of accountability. But, sorry, you can't outrun death. You just can't. So, anyway, I still feel the trauma because financially I am still tied to, it's inescapable. There's nowhere to run on planet Earth from this earthquake that's happening in the U.S. And here I am in France, and I have to tell you, they're in this nice little bubble. They have the euro. They're not, and they don't, people in Europe don't invest in the U.S. stock market. I believe you have to have some kind of presence and residency in the U.S. to partake. So unless there's some sophisticated international global people, which there are in Europe, the locals here are not really impacted. They're impacted in the sense that they see that it's, Germany, Nazi Germany all over again. And they're just like, what the hell is going on over there? And, it does upset them. But they're not financially impacted until such time that they are. Let's face it, you can't have the biggest superpower, biggest economy in the world, which is everything from the CDC to the Federal Reserve. All of the experts are being eliminated if they can do it. So it's not going to be an easy ride in the world. And hell, maybe it's what's needed. But for our lifetime right now, this is painful. And I really, I'm trying to keep my mental health And the challenge is that I know I'm susceptible to the drama of the narcissist just taking up all the oxygen. And while I feel more empowered than most, I do feel like I need a way to start maybe even, pushing out content that is more about ways to balance your mental health, and I'll be balancing mine as well, because we are in for it for the short term. I don't know if the midterms are actually going to happen. That's how I feel. I don't think, sorry that I'm jumping all over the place, but there's so much. I don't think that the leadership in the Democratic Party fully understands. They probably are risking, if they don't get the message, there may not be midterms. He's doing, from so many angles, he's doing everything in his power to eliminate the midterms or delegitimize the midterms, which is also something that Putin would love. Like, so many of our enemies around the world would love that. So nobody's looking to help unify the U.S. Everybody's rubbing their hands on that one. It's just mind-blowing how people are leaving the Democrats because the leadership, at least, shows that they're not getting it. And to me, that is, I thought people were smarter than this, especially people that held certain high positions. I realize I hate politics. I would never have, it's a viper's den, right? It's plain and simple disgusting, Washington. I really had no idea. Because the Dems have played the game too. And I don't know what you have to be made of to be able to tolerate this kind of life. But there you go. But if the Dems don't figure it out, if they don't start fighting like Gavin is fighting, quite frankly, what I would love to see, now you have to be a competent person to pull this off. You just can't pull it off and have it fall flat. I would love to see a bunch of congressional people, a bunch of Congress people. I would love to see them all tweeting like Gavin does. But they have to do it at that level. They can't do it in a way that looks like, oh, you're trying and that was really sad. But if there was a cacophony of Trump stupid ass tweets from everybody whenever they decided to tweet, and this just filled X and, social media and stuff, I think it would be hysterical. And it would just, and at that point, the people who have been able to avoid seeing what the Dems are doing because they only watch Fox and they're all MAGA and everything, at that point, there would be so much out there that they couldn't help but run into it everywhere. Like if it was, their local Congress people, their senator, like just social media everywhere. If they just kept seeing, because not everybody's paying attention to what Gavin is doing or JB Pritzker. Not everybody is seeing what Wes Moore is doing. But here I am in a lovely water situation. Fox is doing some of the work for us in that they are reporting on Gavin's tweets to like go, what is he doing? But that's not enough. I would love to see the zone flooded so that people start to go, what the heck? Like, it would be so funny because they're so used to their dear leader and they're thinking he's so smart doing this. But if everybody was doing this, it would create a different dynamic, and I would love to see it. Anyway, I'm going to continue on my hike. I'm going to go walk through this water feature because that's what I have to do. And thank you, and I'll talk to you next time. I'll see you next time.